Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about how your business can welcome the world to Kansas City. As international visitors arrive for FIFA World Cup 2026, local businesses and organizations have a chance to do more than provide service. We have a chance to create experiences people remember. This session is designed to be practical. You do not need to become an expert in every culture. You do need tools that help you stay respectful, clear, and confident in real interactions. Please reference the Welcoming the World workbook. We'll use it throughout the session. Here's how we'll work today. This is not a lecture-only session. We'll move through short concepts, examples, and reflections. Our goal today is to build cultural humility, improve language access awareness, and give you practical tools you can use in hospitality, retail, venues, transit, and customer-facing settings. The frame for the session is the welcome model, which gives us a simple structure for how to show up well under pressure because the scale of this event matters. This is expected to be the largest FIFA World Cup in history, which means more teams, more matches, more movement, and more complexity for host cities. For us, that means more people asking for directions, more guests navigating unfamiliar systems, more visitors who may speak limited English, and more high-stress moments in public-facing environments. So this training is not just about being welcoming in a general sense. It is about being operationally ready for a global event, and that means having cultural humility. Let's define a key phrase for today: cultural humility. Cultural humility is not memorizing facts about different groups. It is an ongoing practice of self-awareness, curiosity, and respect. It means I do not assume that my norms are universal, and I do not assume I know what someone else needs based on appearance, accent, behavior, or background. Instead, I stay open, I ask, and I adjust. That matters in customer service because fast assumptions can create friction very quickly. Cultural humility helps us slow down just enough to understand what is actually happening and respond in a way that protects dignity and builds trust. In the workbook, there is pre-assessment and goals section starting on page 4. Take time to glance at those prompts so you can start noticing what you most want to strengthen today. This training should be practical. The goal is not just to understand the concept, but to ask what it looks like in your setting. In hospitality, that may mean simplifying check-in and using visual supports. In retail, it may mean clear sizing or pricing explanation. In transportation or venues, it may mean wayfinding, repetition, and calm body language. What matters is that our teams can translate respect into behavior. Take a moment to think. Which part of your guest experience is most likely to confuse a first-time international visitor? Next, we'll walk through the welcome framework and keep that experience in mind. The first part of welcome is wonder. Wonder means approaching difference with curiosity rather than judgment. A helpful phrase here is, different is not deficient. A guest who behaves differently than we expect is not automatically rude, confused, or difficult. Wonder asks us to pause before assigning meaning. It shifts us from certainty to curiosity, and that makes us much better at service. In our practice, wonder sounds like this. How can I make this easier? Would you like me to show you visually? What would be most helpful right now? These are small phrases, but they matter. They lower pressure and invite the guest to participate in solving the problem. One of the best practices in cultural humility is to avoid assumptions and ask directly, respectfully, and simply. That is exactly what wonder helps us do. Let's practice this. Read the situation and answer this question. What is the most respectful next move from staff? What we're listening for here is not who can guess the culture correctly. What we're listening for is who can respond without making the guest feel judged. The better move is to offer options, reduce pressure, and check what would help. Wonder keeps us from rushing into the wrong story. The second part of the framework is engage. If wonder is the mindset, engage is the behavior. This is where respect becomes visible. Guests notice whether we are warm, patient, flexible, and willing to work with them rather than against them. Engage is the difference between a polite transaction and a genuinely welcoming interaction. These 3 pillars are strong and simple: welcome warmly, flex when needed, and close the loop. In a multicultural setting, that middle piece matters a lot. Flex does not mean abandoning policy. It means adjusting how we explain, guide, or support the guest so they can navigate the experience successfully. And closing the loop means we do not assume it landed. We check. One important point for a global event: mistakes will happen. A name will be mispronounced, a direction will be misunderstood, someone may feel embarrassed or frustrated. Service recovery matters because how we repair can build trust. The key is to keep it short, sincere, and respectful. Something as simple as, "Thank you for correcting me. I want to make sure I say your name correctly," can go a long way. I'd like you to jot down one recovery phrase in your workbook that would sound natural coming from you. Now we move to listen. Listening is not waiting for your turn to talk. It is trying to understand meaning. In cross-cultural settings, that often means tolerating a little more pause, a little more repetition, and a little more patience than we may be used to. Listening well helps us respond to the actual need, not the need we guessed. These are core listening tools your team can use immediately. Give full attention, paraphrase what you heard, and clarify without blame. One of the most useful phrases in any service setting is, "Let me make sure I understood." That phrase lowers defensiveness and helps both people reset. It also supports language access because it gives the guest a chance to correct us before the misunderstanding grows. I want to be careful here. These examples are possibilities, not stereotypes. The point is not to label people. The point is to remember that silence, indirectness, or deference may mean something different than what we first assume. Looking at some cultural examples, what would your team's response strategy be? The best answers usually combine patience, clarification, and humility. We acknowledge that our first interpretation may be incomplete, and then we ask in a way that preserves dignity. Communicate is about more than words. Guests read our tone, pace, gestures, signage, and environment as much as they hear our sentences. So when we talk about communication today, we mean verbal communication, nonverbal communication, and system design. This is one of the most important slides in the training. Language access is not simply speaking louder or repeating the same words faster. Meaningful access means giving people a real path to understanding. That can include trained bilingual staff when appropriate, qualified interpreters when needed, translated vital information, visual supports, and teach back. It also means staff know what to do instead of improvising under pressure. One best practice is that people should know help is available and staff should know how to access it quickly. Another best practice is to avoid relying by default on family or friends to interpret sensitive or important information when qualified support is needed. When language is limited, nonverbal communication becomes even more important. Open hand gestures, calm facial expression, one step at a time, and visible patience can make a big difference. Also, short scripts beat long explanations. Plain language works best when we use common words, short sentences, and clear action steps. On page 11 of your workbook, you can reflect on what you communicate non-verbally. I want to turn this from ideas into process. If a guest walked up to your team today and preferred another language, what are the first 3 things staff should do? They should identify the language need, know how to access available support, and use clear tools like visuals, translated materials, or teach back to confirm understanding. Good organizations do not leave this to chance, they train for it. Observe is about noticing whether our approach is working. It is not profiling. It is paying attention to the guest's experience in real time. If someone looks uncertain, frozen, overwhelmed, or overly agreeable, we should treat that as information and adjust. Some common cues of confusion are repeated. Yes, anxious scanning, tight posture, delayed response, or a guest returning with the same question. These signs do not mean someone is difficult. They often mean our explanation did not land. The answer is not frustration. The answer is adjustment. Slow down, simplify, show visually, or change the environment. This quick protocol is useful because it gives staff something concrete to do. Step back, soften your approach, offer alternatives, confirm understanding, and document patterns. That last part matters. If the same confusion keeps happening, it's probably not just an individual issue. It may be a signage issue, a policy explanation issue, or a workflow issue. Mindfulness means self-awareness in the moment. In service settings, bias often shows up when we are rushed, tired, crowded, or dealing with uncertainty. The goal here is not shame. The goal is noticing our reflexes early enough to choose a better response. This slide is an invitation to honest reflection. Bias can affect who we assume understands instructions, who we read as suspicious, who we think is rude, or who we think is confused. One of the strongest practices in cultural humility is self-reflection. We get better when we ask ourselves where our lens may be shaping our interpretation. On page 14 of your workbook, choose one workplace hotspot where bias could creep in and name one debiasing move your team could use. This may be the most reflective slide of the session. Every one of us has norms we learned so early that they feel invisible. Eye contact, volume, timing, politeness, cueing, tipping, names, personal space. The challenge is that we often mistake our norms for universal norms. Cultural humility asks us to notice that. You can utilize page 15 of your workbook to reflect. The final part of the framework is extend. One training does not create lasting change by itself. What matters is what happens next, how teams practice, what leaders reinforce, what tools get updated, and what organizations learn from the event itself. Extend turns today from a one-time session into an ongoing service improvement effort. This is a useful way to think about sustainability: people, practice, and policy. People means learning from community members, guests, and staff experience. Practice means rehearsal, scripts, and reinforcement. Policy means making sure the right tools and procedures are built into operations so staff do not have to reinvent the response every time. Now we can turn learning into commitment. On page 16 of your workbook, and draft 3 action items: one thing your team can do this week, one thing to practice this month, and one systems issue leadership should review before the tournament. Be specific. Improve communication is too broad. Create a visual check-in guide is much stronger. This brings us back to the heart of the training. Cultural awareness matters, but humility matters even more. We are not trying to perform expertise about everyone else. We are trying to create respectful, adaptable service. The guest is the expert on their own experience. Our job is to respond in ways that help them feel oriented, respected, and supported. Applying this through examples shows where friction often happens: payment expectations, religious observance, privacy, photos, etiquette, or timing. The best response is usually some version of this. Stay calm, avoid shaming, explain clearly, offer options where possible, and confirm understanding. Plain language is especially important here. When people are stressed or unfamiliar with the local context, simple communication works best. As we close, here are the core takeaways I hope stay with you. Stay curious, do not assume, use plain language, make language support visible, notice confusion early, and reflect on your own lens. Those are not abstract ideals. They are daily service behaviors. Take time to write down one commitment in your workbook, one specific adjustment you will make in your service style, team communication, or guest support after today.